Good morning. I just want to take a second to really thank everybody for jumping on. It looks like we have over 90 participants right now. And that, hold on one second. Can you turn down your volume by any chance? Oh, sorry about that. Some of us are in a room right now and we're getting some feedback. Okay, take two. Oh, gonna admit another one in. Not quite the way that I expected started my first day on the job. The plus side of this, I can see all the people that are logged in and you guys have your names next to your faces. So I'm gonna try to remember as many faces and names as I possibly can. If you can't hear me and you see my lips moving, please use the chat feature down low to the right and Doreen will let me know she's in the room with me and we'll go from there. A couple of small housekeeping things. Right now, we have everybody currently muted. We will open that up for questions, or we'll use the chat feature for questions at some point. But just for the purposes of the presentation, so we don't have backfeed, we're not going to utilize that. Can somebody please just acknowledge in the chat that they can hear me, so I know that we're good to go? See a couple people typing. Doreen, we good? Perfect. Thank you. All right, we're going to jump right on in. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Michael Fischer. I am the new president here at York County Community College. First day on the job, so it's a great way to start off, like I mentioned. The good news is I have been working with the Maine Community College system, President Dagler, Dr. Knapp, for the better part of the last 2 months and have been actively involved in all the conversations on COVID-19 and the coronavirus really over the past 3 weeks or so. I have to give huge kudos to President Dagler and the Maine Community College system. They actually have been on the forefront of this. For the last 3 weeks, there have been meetings twice a day with the presidents from the system, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. It goes without saying that this is really unprecedented. I don't know that any of us can say that we've seen or experienced this in our lifetime, and it is ever changing, it is fluid, and it's really unpredictable. So every time we think we have a grasp on something, things change day to day, as we heard in Governor Mills' press conference yesterday. I have been working on this PowerPoint presentation for the last few days, and quite honestly, it shifted drastically late last night. We had 2 additional calls with the presidents in the system, and we had a call late last night where Dean Rogan was on the call with me, really talking about where we're at and where we're going. So bear with me as I go through the PowerPoint. In short, the community college system, the Maine Community College system has been really focused on prevention up until this point, and we've rapidly moved into a spot of response. I do want to point out and just remind people that things are changing so rapidly that the information in this PowerPoint is current as of this morning. In the situation may force us to change some things, but I'm hoping that we will be able to lay out a pretty clear plan for you guys of what we're thinking. There are some areas that we really want to get community input from you guys, because this is impacting all of us. At the forefront, and I said this in the email that I sent out to everybody, my 3 priorities in any decision I make as president here at York is going to be how it impacts our students, how it impacts our faculty, staff, and our organization, and how it impacts the communities in which we serve. And the safety of all of you is at the paramount of all of these decisions that we will make. So I just want to set the foundation for that. Shift. There we go. The agenda for this presentation, we just went through the welcome. Going to talk a little bit about moving from prevention to response. I won't read slide for slide. There's a lot of detail, Please know that we will be sharing this slideshow presentation after this meeting or later on this afternoon. We will send it out to the entire community. We also do plan on sharing this with the students as well with an email. And this is being recorded for students or faculty, staff, and adjunct that don't have the ability to be on the call with us today. We will talk a little bit about Governor Mills' press conference, and then we're really going to try to spend the bulk of the meeting talking about our response in terms of academics, in terms of college operating, and then a communication plan that we want to share with you. In each of these areas, there'll be an opportunity for questions and answers. Recognizing that we want to be respectful of everyone's time, we might not be able to get to every single question that's asked in this Zoom conference, but if you do email that question to myself or Dean Rogan, we will make sure that we get those answers to you guys, or at least try to respond to the whole community with a generalized statement. And I said this right off the bat, I really want to, really want to thank everybody for their flexibility of changing the meeting time. I was up at Central Maine on Friday, and Dr. Knapp informed me that we had a meeting scheduled at 8:30 this morning in terms of COVID-19, and there was no chance in the world that we were going to be able to be prepared because I hadn't had a chance to meet with the senior leadership team. And just for clarification purposes, when I refer to the senior leadership team, I'm speaking specifically about the deans at the college. So I do thank you for giving us a little bit more time to finalize our plan. Many of us were working over the weekend to make sure we were good for this session. I also want to thank you for your understanding in moving the meeting to Zoom. My understanding from Dean Bork is that we haven't used Zoom in this way in the past year. But I do think it's a wonderful piece of technology that will allow us to connect with one another. Our goals for moving the meeting to Zoom was to allow as many members of our community to participate as possible. And we also wanted to model and practice social distancing behavior. That being said, let's jump right on in. Moving from prevention to response. If you look at the highlighted part, this is an email that was sent out from Maine CDC just 5 days ago. And at that point, we were really in this mindset that we were going to continue to try to focus on the prevention part to stop COVID-19 from spreading. We focused on cleaning hands, good habits, social distancing, et cetera, et cetera. Come now 5 days later, we are in a spot of rapid response. Likewise, the Maine Community College system, and these are some quotes, and I put these in here. This is directly from President Dagler, and I do think his first sentence in this really captures where we're at and really talks about the importance of all of us being on this call. The work that we're going to do and engage with today and over the next few weeks is probably going to be one of the most significant challenges of our professional careers. Up to this point, our goal has been to reduce the number of individuals on campus so people that need to access resources can do so with adequate social distancing. We have been focused on aiming to ensure academic continuity with the support services and resources to do so. We have really been focusing on trying to do whatever we can to move online while still being able to provide services on campus to support our services. Our goal has slightly shifted, and I want to be clear on this. Our goal right now is really the overarching priority is to protect the health and safety of our students, faculty, staff, and the communities we serve. In order to achieve this, we must prevent the spread of coronavirus and COVID-19 that is transmitted from person to person through close contact. Secondarily, we want to try to make sure we focus on the academic to the extent possible and limited by the overarching importance of protecting health and safety. We aim to provide an academic continuity plan wherever possible, and that's where we need some input from you guys today. Overall, COVID-19 in the response part, many of you guys have probably been hearing a lot about the NPIs, which is the non-pharmaceutical interventions. They're actions that people can take to slow the spread of respiratory viruses in pandemics such as influenza, and the coronavirus falls within that category. NPIs can be phased in and layered on multiple different areas, and we've tried to do that with some social distancing. We tried to do that with the governor's first press conference of minimizing large gatherings to 250 or less. If you heard her speak yesterday, she addressed that and narrowed that down to 50 or less. And if you're working with a high-risk population, 10 or less. So it continues to be fluid. The MPIs will be vital in us flattening out the COVID-19 impact. And as part of that is we really need to mitigate this. The graph that you guys see in front of you right now, and probably have seen this on the news quite a bit, is what we're trying to do is stop this high peak that the pandemic is building up to. And from all reports, we haven't reached that peak yet. What we're trying to do is flatten that out. And we flatten that out by creating distance. We flatten that out by making sure that we're practicing the good habits, and we try to avoid as much contact as possible. The benefits of flattening out the possible spread of it is it's less of an impact on our healthcare system. It also gives time for community leaders in the pharmaceuticals to come up with possible vaccinations, as well as allowing us to make sure that we're better prepared to meet the influx on our healthcare system. One of the things that we've done, and this is going to be really, really important that we continue to do, is social distancing. These are some general recommendations for colleges, and I think that most colleges have done a very good job of it. I was extremely, extremely impressed with the work that the senior leadership team here and the entire college community, faculty and staff have done with building the capability of moving things online. But social distancing is really helpful to reduce contact. We try to increase the distance between people to 6 feet or greater. We are actually in the community, what is the room? I'm looking for help. Community boardroom right now, and there's only 5 of us because we want to model and practice social distancing right now. I think that is really, really important. We also need to recognize that we need to separate sick people as soon as possible. And if you're feeling sick, again, the message has been to stay home, and we continue to emphasize that message. In addition, one of the ways that you can promote social distancing is remote instruction and distant learning as a top priority. And I know Dean Rogan and her team and the faculty have been hard at work at that, and we will talk about that as part of our plan. We also today, so you know that, we made a decision that we are immediately limiting access to the building to just faculty, staff, and students. We are canceling all public or non-essential meetings on campus as we continue to roll out our plan. We want to make sure our community is very, very safe, or safe as humanly possible. Some other ways that you can maintain and you can really practice the social distancing, and we're seeing this right now in the governor's message recommending that all K through 12s move to closure as soon as reasonably possible. In New Hampshire, the governor did the same there. So some of the things there is preemptive, coordinated closures and dismissals during pandemic, school closures where all staff and students stay home, and that's what we're seeing in the K through 12 system. School dismissals, or in our case, moving things online, is where staff would report, but students will stay home and work remotely. The key of this is preemptive measures. We want to make sure that those are coordinated. There's all sorts of different views and perspectives in terms of the length of closure. The first part is to gain a time for assessment in the very early stages, and they really recommend that is an ongoing process. I think we're in the spot right now, which is that second dash, which is to slow the spread of virus in areas beginning to experience local outbreaks, which is one of the reasons why last week, participating in the president's meeting, I supported the notion of us extending our spring break a week to give us some time to develop a game plan. Ultimately, we're going to need to get to a spot that's going to allow us time as a country and as a global perspective to allow time for a vaccine for production and distribution. The reality is COVID-19 and coronavirus, it's not going to go away, and I think we all recognize that. So we need to do everything we can to minimize that impact. A little bit about Governor Mills' press conference for those of you that didn't have an opportunity to see it today. I do believe it is online, but she did sign a proclamation of civil emergency. She has instructed that all public schools in classroom instruction as soon as reasonably possible. She also gave a couple of recommendations in terms of postponing non-urgent medical procedures, restricting visitors to long-term care facilities, and postponing events with 50 or more people on campus. I will say President Dagler has gone a step further, and he's really asked us to postpone and limit any group size 10 or less as much as humanly possible, and to make sure that we have adequate space even in those situations. Overall, in Maine, COVID-19, as of last night, has impacted 12 individuals. There are 7 positive cases of COVID-19 and 5 presumptive positives. A presumptive positive just means that the CDC did not do the initial test, and it was a licensed and permitted agency. Those tests just need to be verified by the Maine CDC in order to move them completely into the positive cases. We heard yesterday, for the first time, there was an individual under the age of 18 in the state of Maine that was impacted in Cumberland County. So it is among us, and it is present. At this point in time, I'm going to pass this over to Dean Rogan, and she's going to take you through our academic response with some action steps, and then we're going to actually open it up for conversation at that point. Dean Rogan, I am unmuting you now.
Hello all. I think you're pretty familiar with the work we've been doing. Sorry, we've got a little feedback. Yeah. From the president. Basically, we've been working over the last couple of weeks on putting together an academic continuity plan. We are looking to move all classes online by next Monday. We have a few lab courses. We are still trying to figure out exactly how we will make that happen, or what we will do in place of that. We have a couple of creative solutions. We've been looking at what people are doing all over the country and really all over the world for this in higher ed. We understand it's not anybody's preferred option to do this, but it's the best option we have as far as keeping people safe. So we will have a plan for each and every course in the next day or so. But for now, we have just a few classes remaining that we need to talk about in a few areas that haven't maybe taught online in the past that will be. We understand that this will be a challenge for some faculty who haven't taught online or haven't had to find certain softwares or ways to teach their program in an online format. And also that not all students would choose online, obviously, and some may not have the technology to do this. So we are going to look once again to be as creative as we can and as accommodating as we can. We are, just like everybody else, making this up as we go. We're just trying to get the best brains we have here around what the right options are for us and our students. Trying to think, did that cover everything? Oh, I know we have a couple of we have dual enrollment and concurrent enrollment courses as well running. We've been paying attention primarily to the programs on the campus, but the things that we teach off-site at the shipyard for non-credit, at these high schools, we're also looking at contingency plans for them. Where the K-12s host our dual and concurrent enrollment, we'll follow their lead primarily on their schedule. But the after-hours dual enrollment, when it's our adjunct, we will be looking to do those online as well. There may be things we haven't thought of yet. We have a 4-page list of questions and concerns we've been compiling with everybody's thoughts that we've been hearing of any concerns they have or things that they think might be a challenge. So I'm looking forward to more of your thoughts. Please feel free to put them in the chat where we are collecting all of that, or you can email me. We have put together a faculty instructional page. off of the Academic Affairs webpage, trying to put all the information together for what services, supports, trainings, and tips we have for moving classes online. I think if you have any questions, you can pop them in here now.
I do want to just add for everyone in terms, again, for complete transparency, for the lab portions, I think it's going to be very unlikely that we will do any of the lab portions of the programs that are listed on campus for the safety of our community. We don't want to put faculty, staff, students in harm's way. The overarching theme, as I stated in the beginning, is really that safety of the community first and foremost. Dean Rogan and Associate Dean Tatnell have been very hard at work. So please know that we're trying to address those things and get that stuff. There are a couple of questions coming in terms to AccuPlacer test for Portsmouth Naval Shipyard. We are in the process of, we started that discussion this morning. We need to have some conversation and reach out to the shipyard. I'll tell you my initial thought on that is the safety of our community comes first. At the end of the day, we have a phenomenal relationship with the shipyard. In the institution I come from, had a very similar, incredible relationship with them. I think that they're going to be understanding of that, but we need to communicate that and understand their needs. But at the end of the day, as I said to you multiple times, is the decision will be on what's best for our community. Doreen, I think there are a couple, or Dean Rogan, I believe there are a couple other ones that are here for you right now.
Right.
Will science faculty have access to displays in order to record a Zoom lecture? If yes, just this week or longer?
That's just this week. So we are going to limit anybody in the building after this week, or that's where we're moving to. As far as supporting students, I see questions around tutoring, Student Success Center, library, TRIO. We are looking to ensure that all student supports, and we've actually been working on this for a couple of years now, that we can provide all student supports remotely. The Student Success Center has fabulous resources up and running. Last week they added, with Maureen's help, they added resource pages. They are doing trainings today on how to deal with students remotely through Skype or Zoom, and they're making additional videos. Some of these are moving quick, so let me see. Registration dates, that's a great one. How we're going to do advising and registration, we're looking at those right now. Advising will be done remotely. Everybody, anyone who supports students, so all advisors and student support personnel will have a free version of Zoom, access to a free version of Zoom, which I believe is up to 40 minutes that you can work on it. So that's one way you might be able to help advising. We will be putting together some how-tos on how to use Zoom if you've never done it, at least from the setup side of things. Actually, Zoom has a lot of great videos themselves. Skype is fine.
And Dean Rogan, if I can just jump in, because I think a lot of the questions are similar in nature. And I just want to, obviously we're in uncharted territory. We are going to work closely with faculty and especially the department chairs. We encourage the professors, instructors, and our adjunct faculty to have conversation with their department chairs. You'll see when we get into college operations that we will still maintain, regardless of the options that we have on the plate, we will still maintain essential personnel that will have access to the building. So if there is something that is going to be pressing, that is going to make a difference in the quality of education for the students that we serve, we are going to work with people. Absolutely. I think that just needs to be communicated through the department chairs and then straight up through Dean Rogan. There was a question that came in, if I can address that, I believe it's from Diane, says the students will be picking up the laptop computers to work at home. Can I make myself available to help them at the school? We're going to tackle that a little bit in the operations one. There are a couple of different options that we're playing out. In general, we do want, and is wonderful as, you know, one of the things that drew me to York was the commitment to our students. And I think that that is the greatest strength. I just want to make sure that we don't make that our greatest weakness in this crisis situation. I know that everybody has genuine concern and wants to do what's right for the student, but the reality is we don't know who is a carrier at this point. We don't know what's happening in our community. So we will try to find every possible way to support our students humanly possible, but not at the risk or the peril of our faculty, staff, in our overall community. So it's please bear with us. It is a work in progress. I do think some of the operation questions or examples will cover some of that. Sorry, Dean Rogan, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I think actually that we probably covered most of the things that people are asking. Some of the things you're asking about as far as access to student records and things like that, we'll be putting out an email with that information on how we will facilitate supporting students from a distance. So stay tuned, but thanks for the questions because I'm adding them to my list. Appreciate it.
And I do want to address one from Michael in terms of digital media, because I think this is something that we're going to experience with all of our students. I've asked Erin to try to schedule an emergency meeting with the foundation board for hopefully tomorrow night or Wednesday night. And I plan on, I want to share our plan with the foundation board, but I also want to see if there's some help and some assistance that the board would give us in terms of finances so we can help support the students that might not have the technology that's needed. I'm going to actually see if I can easily unmute, but I want Dean Bork to actually talk about a little bit of what we've been working on here. And I think it's going to tie into some of the student support services that we're going to need. I just have to figure out how the heck to unmute him. So let's see, Eric right there. And it's trying. There we go.
There you go. I'm unmuted. I think though, if we have more than one mic going, there ends up being feedback. Thank you. Hi, everybody. So one of the things that we're working on, we are putting in place a number of laptops that we're configuring in order to try to get people as much remote access as we can for staff and faculty. We've just recently upgraded our firewall last week, actually. We finished that on Thursday, which gave us considerably more capacity to do what we need to do in that regards. We're also standing up the Zoom accounts, as Dean Rogan mentioned. We're able to create free accounts, basically as many as we want for anybody to be able to initiate meetings. That you can manage that through either your calendar or through logging into Zoom. I'm currently working on a single sign-on option for that to enable people to just use their YC accounts and go through and authenticate that way. So we're putting those things in place right now. I also wanted to mention that the Office 365 connection that we have licensing for everyone on campus, you can use that for cloud storage and move files around that way and share some files that way as well. It is compliant with most every regulation out there. I know we are constrained by FERPA, but I actually went ahead and checked to make sure if it was if it met the regulations for banks and things too. So we are covered in that regards for those file storage areas. And it also gives you cloud access to Office and the full suite of Microsoft programs so that we can work remotely that way too. I think that covers a lot of those bases as far as resources that we have available.
And I think that was one of Peg's question as well. Do you bring student files home to advise? We're trying to figure that stuff out. Again, we're in uncharted territory. I think we'll get some clarification from system legal. But at the end of the day, twofold. One, we want to create a safe environment. But two, we want to serve our students and have as minimal of an impact. And I know that is kind of hard to think about on the student. So I do think there's going to be some flexibility in order to do that stuff. We just have to figure out how to do it in the safest way possible. One of the other questions, and I do want to take time to answer some of these questions because I think they're absolutely great. And I won't lie, like actually reading these things just reaffirms that I made the right decision to join the team here. I'm seeing people volunteering, Kat's volunteering to help anybody who wants to learn Zoom. Lauren's there as well. It's just the community support, and we're going to need that. We're going to need to be there for each other. We're going to need to be there for our students. So I just thank you all very much for that. There was an interesting question that I think is good and one that we have to tackle, but Alicia Solomon asked, can we obtain an incomplete through the summer semesters for clinical methods? Those are things that we are going to have conversations on this afternoon. There's another system meeting at 2 p.m. and I think that's a great suggestion. We've proposed a couple of different things there, but that's something that we can really have some more conversation. And Penny, I do appreciate you mentioning that Skype is not HIPAA compliant. That is very, very, very helpful. Trying to see if there's anything else major. Things are moving really quickly here. Just want to clarify. Department chairs are able to access the building. Yes, absolutely. This week, you guys will have complete access to the building. And again, please know we are going to do what is right for our students as long as it doesn't negatively impact the community. If you're a department chair and you forget something, or one of your instructors needs to come on in and videotape something for a lecture, we will have that access to do this. We're not shutting down completely. We want to limit the number of people in the building, but we will be flexible with you guys. I think that just needs to be communicated through the department chairs, and then the department chairs to academics and Dean Rogan. There will be some lessons in terms of students downloading and accessing Zoom. I do know that IT has developed a couple of handouts for that will be getting out to you guys as well. And I think, when are we telling students? So we will be sharing this email and this link with the students by the end of the day today. I am hoping that we will have a definitive answer. You'll see in the next part that we still have some questions that need to be answered where we really need some input. So I'm actually going to shift over to the next slide. And again, we'll look back through these messages and try to get back to you guys, but truly appreciate the input. As we're going over the next slide, I'll sort of go through this and see if there's any major, I see something there with PEG in terms of animals. Great point, and I think that's something we can touch base. One final thing that I'll say in terms of faculty and academics, department chairs, please work with your faculty. Please make a list of things that you need or things that would be helpful in us making sure that this is a positive experience for the student, but more importantly, that we're going to meet the course objectives and outcomes. That's going to be vital to this process. And when you do that, please share that with Dean Rogan as well. That being said, I am going to mute myself. I am going to unmute Dean Airy, and there we go. Unmute.
All right. Good morning. No worries. All right. So as far as operations are concerned, as it says on the slide here, with respect to the operations and personnel, our focus is on maximizing social distance, and that includes minimizing close contact and congregation in the workplace. YC will adopt temporary employment policies and practices that will promote and support remote work in a manner consistent with operational needs. Individual employees will be notified with respect to on-campus site or remote work expectations. Department heads will be asked to work with their teams to create work plans and make sure that any alternative work arrangements are supported with appropriate technology support and communications and reporting protocols. And those department chairs, department heads will obviously share that information with their deans. No worries. Okay, so the things that are the recommendations or scenarios that are still in discussion, so that's important to mention with this, is one, the college physical locations will close and all employees will work remotely except essential personnel as determined by the senior leadership team. Again, I want to say it again, these two bullets are in discussion, neither as we have not decided yet which way to go. The second, of course, is college physical locations remain open to students, faculty, and staff, but not the public, with a skeletal crew in each department while others work remotely. Because as is said, regardless of the option, the business of the college must continue, especially our role in supporting student success. We certainly want to hear your any questions that you have about this, your feedback as to which recommendation we will put forward. But as of this moment, it has not been decided whether we will physically close the campus or keep it open with a skeletal crew.
And if I can just add to that, this is really a spot where we need input from you guys and what you're feeling, or you all and what you're feeling, and your thoughts and perspective on this. We've had a conversation as a senior leadership team. We have a leaning, but the reality is this is all of our colleges. This impacts all of us. So we're really open to thoughts that you guys have. If there are things that we're missing, I would just ask in your questions or your thoughts and comments that you just take into consideration the two primary purposes that we're trying to achieve. One, the safety and well-being of the community, and two, the ability to be able to offer quality student services and academics so students have a chance to increase their success. Ultimately, we still need to make sure that we are focused on supporting student success in every single way. I can't see the chat box right now. Dean Rogan, I don't know if you can, but certainly, and I'll try to get back to that. Maybe we can open it up and we can see if there's any questions there or people's thoughts or comments.
One of the comments is, what does it mean to be open to students?
Yeah, so when we're talking about open to students, the physical locations would be if students need to come in and do something of critical nature with a skeletal crew. So if they need to come in and they need something from admissions or the registrars, and I apologize because you guys call that, we call that. Director of Enrollment Services, but really it is not aimed at meeting with students, but it would be open for students to come on in and use the library to study, as long as we can practice appropriate social distancing. Others? Try.
No, pretty good.
No.
Just concern about students who don't have technology.
Yeah, the students that don't have technology options is something that I'm really, really concerned about, to be quite honest. And we had a really good conversation as a team. That's where I want to go back to the foundation. I have some additional people that I think I can reach out to. We will look at every possibility that we have here, from repurposing maybe some older laptops and allowing students to sign them out and take them home. We're going to try to make sure we provide every opportunity for students that might not have that technology.
How long will this last?
It is that's a $1 million question. I wish we knew. If you look at the recommendations from CDC, the phase that we're in can range anywhere from, the initial part when the outbreak happens, they talk 2 weeks. From the additional part of where we're at right now, it could range anywhere from 4 weeks to 8 weeks. If it really gets into a part where we're at a spot where vaccinations are needed, the CDC recommendations can go months. So I think it will be fluid. We won't know that completely until we see how things play out. But we need to be prepared for an extended period. And when I say extended, at least through the end of this semester. Would number 2 include limited lab access? No. Thank you for asking that question. And I just want to explain why. We had this conversation in depth in both at the President's Council and as the senior leadership team. And I have to tell you, I need to just keep saying this. I can't express to you guys, because I think or to you all, how impressed I am with the Maine community college system, and in particular, President Dagler. Coming from another system, I can tell you that this is heart-wrenching for him. He wants to be able to provide these labs and these supports for students because he knows twofold. One, the students need it. Two, he knows the community needs it, especially in the healthcare field. We're fortunate in one sense that we don't have resident halls. Some of our sister schools are struggling in terms of resident hall stuff, and that makes it even more complicated. But ultimately, when we discussed it as a senior leadership team, we can't find a way to feasibly, or can't think of a way to feasibly offer the labs in those courses and create the social distancing that is required or recommended in order to flatten the virus. And that's not easy to come to that terms in opinion. We've talked about a couple of different things that I think we'll have some options that we can share later on, and we have a conversation with the system. I like the incomplete option. I like the option in terms of possibly suspending the lab portion of some courses and allowing students, which I think does the same thing as the incomplete, at a later period. We're going to see how it plays out. Ultimately, we want to do what's best for students while maintaining the safety. Sorry to keep repeating that, but I can't emphasize that enough. Well, sorry, I think I'm flying through too quick. There we go. I was trying to get to the chat. Any other things there that we're missing? And in terms of essential personnel, so you guys know that, I think that's going to vary. What I can say right off the bat is essential personnel would include facilities and campus safety to make sure that the building is safe, that it's being maintained, and it also will give us an opportunity to do a really thorough cleaning and disinfecting. So when we're ready to open the doors again, in either case, we're ready to hit the ground running. And, yeah. Sam does Sam have access to your mic? So I'm going to try to open this up to Dean Ellis, and we are looking at the student refund process. We want to do what's right by the students at the end of the day. I just got to open up Eric's. There we go. And Dean Ellis, let me see if I.
Yep, the mic's going. Good.
Yes, welcome. Regarding the refunds, the system office is going to take a unified front, and we're going to all talk about how we go about the refunds. That's critical, especially in students that don't finish their courses. What we may recommend is credits towards them taking the course again in a future date or a future later time. So those are all things that we can talk about and look at for students.
The pay for the instructor thing? Professors? Something on the
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a couple other really good questions coming in here. Oh, I gotta, sorry, I thought you were. There, just takes a second.
Hi, some of the questions are coming in about what types of assignments students will be doing. Honestly, every instructor in every class, that's going to be a little different. We are going to, and it is true now in every class anyway, but we are going to be looking at as many alternate options as we can. So this will be a class-by-class scenario. New deadlines and items will be published. We're going to give students as many opportunities as we can. One thing that we're looking at, and that some of the other colleges are doing, are giving students the option of a pass-fail grade during the semester. During whatever class that they stay enrolled in. Not sure quite how that's all going to pan out. We're looking at that, as well as extending incomplete purposes for incompletes to be related to these things. But we are going to put all of this together, both for everyone internal here, and we're going to be making a student resource page so that they know what their options are, and we're going to give them as many tools as we can so that they can participate in this online version or a distance version of their classes.
I'm actually really excited to see the conversation that's taking place and so many comments. People are saying to make the best of a bad situation. We got to get our way through this crisis. I appreciate that perspective and everybody's understanding. And I would encourage creativity for all of our, for everyone in their process, in their classes. Be creative. At the end of the day, and I'm hoping Dean Rogan doesn't throw something at me right now across the table. At the end of the day, as long as we're meeting the core class outcomes, to me, and I'm looking on the thing, see if she's nodding yes or no. To me, that's what matters. In some ways, the silver lining in this is that we have an opportunity to get really creative. And if you think about the origins of the college dating back, it really was aimed at being the entrepreneurial spirit. There's no better time in the world than to have that spirit right now and try to tackle these problems. So I would encourage that. If there's something you always wanted to try, but we haven't had that flexibility, now might be a good time to think about that. Again, that being said, communicate with your department chairs, communicate with academic affairs, but I do think we're in a unique situation here. I shared, for those of you that know, and I know there's a lot of mixed feelings in terms of Southern New Hampshire University out there, but I do think they do the online part fairly well. They actually have shared, and we'll get this link out to you, a number of different resources for anybody that hasn't taught online or even people that have. They're extremely helpful resources, and they've also offered to be a resource to any of you that might be looking for creative ways to tackle stuff. So we'll get that link out to you. The great thing here is, in crisis, the higher ed community is coming together. I mean, heck, the country's coming together. We had our first bipartisan bill pass, and who knows how long. So I think now is the time for us all to unite and do what's best for the students. So I appreciate those comments that people are making. It really is really helpful. All right. I am going to, does this open up the opportunity to expand summer courses? Absolutely. Something that we need to look at, and I think that could tie into our entire overall enrollment plan, Steve, as well. One note on that, and I shared this, and Nick just shared this, thank you, Nick. Maine is now up to 17 cases, according to WGME. We're gonna tackle this crisis, but I want you guys to know that we as a leadership team will still be working not only to deal with this crisis, but we're not losing sight of the business of the college. We recognize that we have to get through this year in so many ways, and we have to start building the foundation for next year and for future years. I truly do believe, and I've said this repeatedly, that we have the makings of greatness here, and I'm seeing that with what's happening in this email thing. And you're right, it absolutely needs to be focused on fluidity. We need to figure it all out. That being said, I want to talk about our communication plans and our commitment to you. I think, and hopefully you guys will start to experience this with me, I think I will always be as humanly transparent as possible with you guys. If there's something that, or you all, if there's something that I can't answer, I will tell you, and I'll tell you why. And most of the time it's simply because I don't have enough information, and I don't want to cause more panic or concern than is necessary. That being said, I think it is vital, especially now, that we're communicating on a regular basis. As such, the college website will be updated regularly with the most recent information. College-wide emails will be sent as needed. Later on today, I will send out a campus-wide invite again. Zoom meetings will be scheduled for every Friday at noon, just for an update for everybody to log on. Some weeks we might not have a lot to tell you. Honestly, that would be a blessing if that was the case, because things are changing so quickly. I don't see that one happening. One thing to note in terms of the Zoom meetings, we had a phenomenal response with people logging on for this, and we might have hit our capacity with the number of people that could log on for this meeting. But we do have another license in that Dean Bork has secured that will allow us to go up to 500 people in the future, and we'll make sure that we do use that. So please apologize to any faculty, staff, or adjuncts that weren't able to log on. Again, this is a fluid and a work in progress, but those Zoom meetings will be scheduled regularly on Fridays, and as needed, we will schedule additional Zoom meetings. And that's from the senior leadership communication part. We strongly encourage you all to communicate with your staff, with your faculty, for you to utilize Zoom as much as you need, or technology, or phone calls to try to tackle things. At the end of the day, we need to communicate with each other. And I'm opening it up to questions, and here's the $1 million question. Michael, you're on fire today with your comments here. Any thoughts about graduation? Obviously, graduation is a very special day in the lives of our students, in the lives of our community. No decision has been made at the system level at this point. I think it's fair for us to all say right now that the longer this goes, it's looking less and less likely that we will be able to pull that off. I think that we need to have a final decision on graduation, probably the first or second week in April at the latest, just for planning purposes. And just so you guys know, we've had a conversation as a leadership team about possibly moving graduation to summer if we do need to postpone it. And we'll have that, if we do get to that spot, we will have that conversation with you all as well. Do adjuncts have their own Zoom accounts? I'm going to pass that one over. Yeah.
Adjuncts can have their own Zoom accounts. I'm able to generate it based on the distribution lists inside of the mail system. So actually later today, I can go ahead and spin that up, and they will all receive an email asking them to log in and configure their logins for the Zoom system. Since I don't have single sign-on configured yet, it'll ask them to create their own accounts in there. So with the speed that things are going at, that's probably the better option for me is just to send it out now and then figure out how to make it more streamlined later on.
Any final thoughts from anybody on leadership? I just want to end once again with thanking each and every one of you for jumping on the call. It is very encouraging to see how much everybody cares about the college and our students. As always, and you guys will learn this about me, certainly open to feedback. If you guys found this helpful, please let me know if there are other things that we can try to tackle in the future. But let's utilize technology as much as we possibly can. Thank you all for joining us. Like I said, we will get this out to the community as soon as humanly possible. One final question in regards to senior college. I do believe that we are moving to cancel senior college. The game plan is to cancel anything that is non-essential at this point in time. So again, we'll communicate that out as well. And there will be some lessons. Will I be able to give Zoom lessons from Yccc Classroom? If depending on which model we go into or which path that we take would limit the access to the classroom. So you may not, but again, I would encourage you to have that conversation with your department chair, and we're always open to try to figure out a way to tackle things. And again, I want to echo Maria, thanks everyone for adapting in the extraordinary times. Thank you guys so much, appreciate it.